Today we are looking at the story of Regina Ubanatu and the forgotten victims of the Biafran War. That war ended more than 50 years ago, but it left deep indelible scars on the Nigerian psyche, still evident in the contemporary Nigerian body politics, yet poorly studied. The story of the Nigerian Civil War and post-war Nigeria would definitely be incomplete without an exploration of its mental and psychological impact on the victims of the conflict. The aim of this presentation is to highlight the need to acknowledge the war's hidden traumas, reveal the unforeseen long-term consequences of displacement, report how victims suffered and coped, and to challenge the country to acknowledge its traumatic past. We are looking now at the story of Regina Ubanatu, who published a book in French about her experience, and this book is going to come out soon in English in Nigeria. In summary, her biography is, first of all, that she was born in 1965 in Ihiala, in Anambra State. Then 67 was the beginning of the Biafran War, a war of independence. And at the time she was unwell and was evacuated by the Red Cross and transferred to a refugee camp for children in Libreville in Gabon. In 1970, she was transferred to France for medical treatment. Then 78, a Nigerian family was finally located. And this is the story about it. So our book is dedicated to all children in search of identity. It's a sober reminder about the wounds inflicted by war and displacement. It's telling our story and explains that her parents, struggling to care for her in the middle of the growing chaos and displacement that threw hundreds of Biafrans on the roads in 67-68, asked her older brother to take her to the Red Cross. Both of them were flown out to a refugee camp in Libreville in Gabon in October 68. But then they got accidentally separated. At the end of the war, most young evacuees families were traced using the Red Cross files and comparisons between their name and their age, and they were sent to Nigeria. Those who remained unclaimed, like her, were deemed to be orphaned. Many of them were sent to Nigerian orphanages or adopted by Gabonese families, where they lost their former identities. Regina remained unclaimed, and because she had been diagnosed with polio, the poor state of health facilities in former Biafra was considered inadequate to cater for her needs. So she was hastily flown to France in December 70, taken to an orthopedic institute in Normandy, and later officially registered as a temporary ward of the state. Supported by a French couple who became her foster parents, she then spent her childhood and adolescence as a boarder in the institute, where she underwent several unsuccessful surgical procedures trying to help her walk. She was eventually reunited with her Nigerian family in 1978, aged 13, during a 2-week visit. From 1995, she then got involved in France in voluntary work with different NGOs and founded an association for disabled women. Today a graduate with a master in human resources from Sciences Po Paris, Regina lives and works in the business district of the French capital. From the time she spent in Libreville, she remembers very little. She writes, "My memories were only fragmented recollections, as I was too young to know and understand my origin. Age 2, she was evacuated from the country and left Biafra like many other kids crammed into military planes taking off in the middle of the bush under bombing, evacuated to Gabon, arrived, and then suffered the consequence of malnutrition and flight conditions. Many other children died, but she survived. The doctors in the refugee camp rapidly diagnosed her illness that had been misunderstood as kwashiorkor. She is now an orphan, paralyzed. Would there be any hope of her survival? She had no remembrance of her family or surroundings. But she thinks that this might have helped her live in a relatively quiet life as a young evacuee, surviving from one day to the next. Yet this dearth of memories left her rootless and deeply worried about her future. Describing her early life, she wrote that it was built like a puzzle whose borders were those limiting her past existence, Gabon, and the refugee camp. From her time in Libreville, she had very little memory, none of them about the war, except of those older children, drawing pictures of hope, home, planes, weapons, flags, soldiers. It would be 10 years before she would meet her older brother again and heard from him his own fugitive memories of the war. Age 5. He said he remembered gunshots, plantations set on fire, people killed, others disappeared. In Gabon, life was peaceful, and Regina's pictures oozed relative happiness. But just at the time she had started adjusting and enjoying some companionship in the camp, she had to experience the pain of seeing her little companions found and living with their eyes shining. As most children, they were reclaimed as soon as the war was over. Alone once more and for a long time, feeling abandoned, ignored, and lost, and struggling to cope with her many unanswered questions, Regina spent days and nights speculating about her family's whereabouts. One thing is sure, she said, since the start of the search to reconnect with her families, I've never been officially reclaimed. She later explained that to cope with those thoughts, her overstretched imagination birthed shreds of elusive memories, hints that she might have lived in another country with another family. And that was a terrible experience. So she was left with a deep-seated feeling of loneliness, an inability to fully express herself in French, in intense physical suffering, and an uneasy relationship with her country of origin, and a desperate struggle to take root somewhere. Next time, we shall look at Regina's experience of France as a child.